It's the Full Court Press with Eric Franson and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends it, yes! Caught! Touchdown, did it!
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Eric Franson, Jason Walker here on the Full Court Press. Thanks for tuning in, being part of the show. Love to have you text in or call in. Share your thoughts or opinions about what's going on. 435-339-0321 if you want to text into the program, or 435-752-1069. And we'll take your calls as well. And news today, Mountain West Conference Commissioner Craig Thompson stepping down. What is his legacy as really the only commissioner this conference has ever known? And what type of qualities would you like to see in his successor, which we really haven't talked too much about. But it's been kind of a complicated legacy that he leaves behind. There's been some great achievements by the conference, BCS appearances, great big upsets, basketball teams that have made some fun runs in the NCAA tournament, deals with CBS and Fox. But also, it's been a tenure filled with uncertainty, with teams leaving, teams coming in, other teams leaving, teams coming back, opportunities to add other teams, but then it doesn't work, or opportunities to add other teams and they're not really heavily pursued. So it's been a complicated legacy for Craig Thompson over the 24 years that he's been the commissioner of the Mountain West.
Yeah, it's a complicated legacy, and he's in a tricky position. He was in a conference that is on the edge of relevance. And if maybe a couple of teams stay, there was no reason for them to stay. So you feel like there was a what if BYU, Utah, TCU stay, and you add a Boise State, and you hang on to that. Well, suddenly that's borderline major conference right there.
According to the criteria that was set up by the BCS, Mountain West was right on that edge there of being considered a major conference.
Yeah. And really what was missing was the TV and, that TV revenue. If they'd have had that, or been if they'd been on the precipice of being able to sign one of those huge deals, maybe it would have survived. Maybe it would have become, this basically P5 or P6, depending on how it would have worked out later when the BCS kind of collapsed. Of course, Utah State would never have made it into the Mountain West in that scenario.
Right.
We'd still be talking about the WAC probably, because the WAC would have survived probably pretty much intact, because then none of those schools move up, save maybe Fresno State or Boise State, excuse me. So, there's kind of a what if, but obviously you can't fault BYU and Utah and TCU for doing what they did. They chased the money like everybody does.
Right. You get the invite to go to the bigger conference that has guaranteed access, who has much deeper pockets, who has the TV revenue. Absolutely. No question. You take that invite. You go.
So it's just unfortunate that, the Mountain West has just been, the school that they're the conference that everyone leaves to go somewhere else. Kind of like what the AAC became. They're the conference that everyone left to go to the bigger conference. The G5's moving up. It's kind of like the coaching carousel, the coaching ladder.
Yeah, but the Mountain West had an opportunity to secure and solidify its position as the top non-Power 5 conference over these last few years. With the AAC getting poached, they had opportunities to either continue to poach the AAC or target the schools that the AAC eventually targeted and brought into their fold. And the Mountain West, I feel, really missed an opportunity there of bringing in UTSA and North Texas, to not because they're necessarily football powerhouses, but they are in key media markets, key recruiting areas, and you're in the state of Texas. You get into the Central Time Zone, which the Mountain West currently is not.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Mountain West adding Utah State. Was Utah State a powerhouse? Heck no. I mean, they were solid in basketball, but they took a risk in adding Utah State, and it's mostly paid off. Utah State's grown, and you can see that out of guys like North Texas and UTSA. Are they powerhouses in football or basketball? Not really, but they could grow, and you could have reaped the reward of adding those guys, have the programs develop while in the Mountain West, and then you get better as a conference. Or you could have maybe poached some teams from the AAC, just, kick them while they're down. Be kind of mean, but,
It's just opportunity.
it's a ruthless business.
Yeah.
And they dropped the ball in that sense. Or like I said, never even picked up the ball. Because they didn't seem to try. And that could end up hurting them because, they're not necessarily going to get overtaken by the AAC now because, again, they've been gutted. But they could have really been that one conference just outside of the Power Five. And that would have been a really great position for them to be in because then they can basically monopolize that, there's that one guaranteed spot, supposedly in the 12-team format for a non-Power 5 school. They could have monopolized that. Now, they won't.
Yeah, true. They left that door open.
And, that's a lot of money that could end up being flowing to some other conference because you didn't strike while the iron was hot.
So what kind of qualities do you think that this conference needs in its next conference commissioner? Now, somebody floated the idea of John Hartwell. I understand the sentiment of a former or current athletic director, but I think you have to look bigger than that. I think it needs to be somebody who has is in the media landscape, has been a part of negotiating television contracts before. And I don't know who that is necessarily, but I think it needs to be somebody who, maybe it's a current Fox executive or CBS, but somebody who understands the media landscape. That's where it is. That's where the dollars are. Now, new media, the Mountain West has played with that a little bit, but not with much success. But that's certainly something that needs to be that person is familiar with. But this conference needs somebody who can be more aggressive in negotiating television contracts and finding certain revenue streams to keep the Mountain West together, especially in some significant media markets. And still be aware of if there are opportunities to expand into other demographics or other markets and other time zones.
I hear Larry Scott's unemployed. Bring him in. No.
He may have a new office building that he's going to try to sell everybody on.
Oh, gosh. They're going to build giant, opulent, where's the current Mountain? Well, Mountain West headquarters are in, Colorado, aren't they?
Springs, yeah.
Yeah, he'd move him to California immediately. Or Vegas. Vegas wouldn't be a bad idea. As far as, bringing a TV executive or... I think that's actually a really good idea because then you can maybe worm your way into, getting a bigger contract. One thing I thought of is maybe bring in someone from Amazon because they might be looking into going to college football.
Yeah.
They just poached Thursday night football.
Thursday night football for the NFL.
So they're going to be looking into college football. Now, they may have their eyes set a little higher than the Mountain West, but if you can sneak in on Amazon, that couldn't hurt. Now, hiring a guy solely based off that's a little iffy, but it's either that or you're looking at just poaching one of the lower G5 conferences. I think Craig Thompson was a Sun Belt commissioner, wasn't he?
He was.
So, obviously, he wasn't really a step up. It was a sidestep, creating a new conference. Maybe they could take a lower executive from the SEC or the Big Ten, guys who just negotiated giant contracts. Maybe bring one of them because they'd have negotiating experience. They'd be on the conference side as opposed to the TV executive side. But those are maybe where you're looking, a lower level P5 guy, preferably Big Ten or SEC, or maybe a TV executive.
Do you think it matters if they come from outside of the conference or they have some connection to its conference affiliates?
Like, they have to have a connection to the Mountain West?
Right.
It doesn't matter. Do your job. That's all that matters. I mean, you do wonder, like, if they go to the Mountain West, then, like, maybe they try and go somewhere else, but, like, maybe they'd get poached eventually. If the, Pac-12 commissioner retires or Big Ten commissioner retires, maybe they'd leave to go somewhere else. But, like, these guys stick around a long time. Maybe there'd be some animosity from the school presidents that were bringing in an outside guy, but you'd think they'd want that. Bring in an outside guy who's going to make things better, who has experience getting these giant TV deals, and can maybe help you in 5 or 6 years.
4086 offers a suggestion. Carl Benson, LOL. He was the WAC commissioner that grew it to 16 and it all fell apart. Then he eventually went to the Sun Belt. Is he still the Sun Belt commissioner now?
I can Google him.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still there. He became the commissioner for the Sun Belt Conference for a while. I don't know if he is anymore. Anyway, I don't know that it really matters. I think it always helps if there's some affiliation, at least with the region. If you brought somebody in who spent their entire time in, I don't know, Florida or Arkansas or South Carolina, and then you bring them out west, it might, I don't know. As long as they have the skill set that you're looking for, that's always great, right? I mean, that's what you want. But I think it always helps if there are people who come into the position that are familiar with the landscape of what they're walking into, so they can more accurately talk about what's going on and the history that's been done and the future that's still ahead of them. If you bring in a total outsider, I'm not saying that they can't learn about that, but I think it is a little bit more of an uphill challenge for them to understand the history and what they're fighting for.
Well, so that's where you have good subordinates. That's where you have the executives below him to help you out. That's why you have assistant coaches and things like that. Because they worry about just hiring somebody from inside the Mountain West office, because then it's just the same as it's always been. It's like when you replace a legendary coach with just an assistant that was under him for a long time. Because then they always fail. Happens like pretty much every time. At least it does in basketball. But, you want to bring somebody in who's going to have a forward-looking vision, not just, what they've all, just don't do what the Mountain West has always done, which has apparently been fairly conservative. Replace what we lost, and they're not really looking to expand. They need someone who, maybe they don't need to have somebody come in that just thinks expand no matter what. Because then you end up picking some teams that just sit at the bottom of the conference standings every year. You don't want to just bring in some garbage team. But you want someone who's going to understand, we need to expand where we can, we need to get as much, TV money as possible, and get as much TV exposure, before you sign those giant TV deals. Mm-hmm. So you got to have someone who's forward thinking. If that's an outsider, then it's an outsider. I don't care. I don't really buy too much into they've got to come in, they've got to understand what they're looking for. Because we talk about this when we hire new coaches here at Utah State. They've got to understand the Utah, landscape. No, they don't. They really don't. I know I disagree with you here, like in a pretty big way, but I don't want to be insulting. But I don't buy into that as much, because if you've got the skills and if you got the vision, you can do the job. You can pick up on these things later, and if you have good subordinates, they will help you pick up on those things, so you don't stumble on those things.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I understand that the point that certainly at the end of the day, are you getting your job done? That's job number one. Are you advancing the conference? Are you bringing in additional revenues and opportunities for the conference and its conference members to showcase themselves? That's job number one, right? And if you can do that to the highest level and advance it and strengthen your member institutions, really everything else is window dressing. But if you're somebody who's from the area or has ties to the area, it's just going to speed up that process and make it easier for you to at least understand who it is that you're fighting for, who it is that you're working for. Yeah. So I don't think it's a prerequisite, but I think it is something that certainly would help a candidate be there.
Yeah, well, I think the trick is, though, is if there's somebody who's like from around here that would understand, they're not going to have the big connections that you need to get this conference moving forward. So if you get somebody who's from around the Mountain West and has always been here, sure, they'll understand, but how much are they going to help the conference grow? They'll be able to keep it together, and they'll have the passion to keep this conference together, and they'll have the values you want, and, again, holding everything together. But we've got to move the conference forward. The problem is they've been stagnant in a lot of ways. We don't want that.
Should the conference headquarters be somewhere besides Colorado Springs?
I don't.
Could that be one of the first orders of business? I
Well,
mean, it's not really known to be a place where a lot of, it's not a media hub. Yeah, the Olympics train there, but I mean, Colorado Springs. Look, you have institutions in San Diego and Las Vegas, which certainly much more appealing in media connections or destinations to set up meetings and to host other executives, sponsors. Colorado Springs just seems like an odd place to have the conference headquarters.
Does it really matter, though? I mean, you mentioned hosting executives, but is an executive really going to make or break a deal? It's like, oh, you didn't invite me to your opulent, Southern California headquarters. You invited me to Colorado Springs. No deal.
But if you have an option of a Zoom call for a meeting or maybe going there for the meeting, are you going to stay home wherever you are, or are you going to go to Las Vegas? Are you going to stay home wherever you are, or are you going to go to San Diego?
I guess. But for deals that involve hundreds of millions of dollars, I think I'll go meet in person over a Zoom call.
I think the Mountain West is going to wherever you are in that case.
Yeah, so it's like there could be some value. I know I'm not really in the business market, so maybe I wouldn't understand the value of having, the headquarters of a borderline major conference not be in the backwoods of Colorado. I shouldn't call them the backwoods. They're one of the bigger metropolitan areas.
It's a decent-sized market.
But they're the backwoods of Colorado when you compare them to anywhere else, like on the West Coast. But, I don't know. When you look at the Pac-12, all the flack they've gotten over their headquarters, I'm hesitant to, move it elsewhere. If they were going to move it, you move it to Vegas. It makes the most sense.
It's where you host the conference tournament. It's where you host your media days. It's a destination location. It'd be a great place, easy place to set up meetings and host people from for sponsorships and other executives.
Yeah. So if the new commissioner comes in, I wouldn't be opposed at all if he just walked in and said, "Hey, we're going to move everything to Vegas." I'd be like, "All right, that could be that forward-thinking vision as long as he doesn't spend $1 bajillion on the new headquarters."
Yes. That's very true. All right, we got to take a time out here in the Full Court Press. Oh, by the way, 4086 says Carl Benson is no longer the Sun Belt Commissioner.
I looked that up. He retired in 2019.
Okay.
So a few years back.
And then 9315 says Alex Birchie, Big Ten Network.
Yeah. There's probably 50 names you could throw out. I won't know who any of them are, but they could be good commissioners. The next Mountain West commissioner is going to come out of left field. I will not know who it is. I will not know their name. I will know nothing of their history, but I will become an expert by the time we talk about it on the show.
That's true. Very true. All right, a quick timeout. Love to continue to get your thoughts. We're going to look back on the Mountain West as a whole right now through the start of the football season, couple of games into it. How is the conference doing as a whole? And stat that blew our minds, player of the week that we didn't get to yesterday. And Donovan Mitchell introduced officially in Cleveland today. Some interesting things that he had to say. We'll get into that coming up next on the Full Court Press. Grantham Mobile Automotive, he'll come to you. Even though the weather is starting to cool off a little bit, you still have to make sure things are working properly in your car. You still might have, from time to time use your AC, but you want to make sure your heater's working and other things are working as the weather starts to turn. So give him a call if something's not working right on your vehicle, 435-229-4345. That's 435-229-4345.
It's time for the Big Hunt, What do you do after you bag your trophy game? This is Jay from Daryl's Appliance. We have several freezers in stock for you to store your big game harvest, including a Frigidaire 20 cubic foot upright freezer in white for only $9.89. Hurry, stock is limited. See store for details. Daryl's Appliance Service and Sales, west on Airport Road, open until 6 p.m. on weekdays, 5 on Saturday.
See Daryl's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
This is an announcement for all you men in Cache Valley who like music and enjoy singing. The Cache Valley Men's Chorus, formerly the Imperial Glee Club, is rolling out its fall season. They will be starting on Tuesday, September 20th at 7 p.m. They're excited to introduce their new director, Jerry Vanderdoes, a music educator for 38 years and a recipient of the Colorado Music Teacher of the Year. Join us Tuesdays at 7 p.m. in the Meeting House at 1800 North, 400 East in North Logan. For questions, call 752-7200.
Elements has delicious lunch specials, 2 for $30, or the new soup, salad, and bread special for just $10. It's tasty and quick. Elements' lunch menu is full of scrumptious items prepared with a personal touch. Wood-fired pizzas are an excellent choice that include barbecue chicken and the bee's knees. The fresh battered halibut fish and chips with seasoned fries is always a hit. And don't forget the fan favorite Munster burger. Casual or professional. Open Monday through Thursday, 11:30 to 8 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11:30 to 9 p.m. Visit theelementsrestaurant.com for reservations today.
Boys and Girls Club of Northern Utah invites you to form a team and play in their second annual Scramble for the Structure Golf Tournament. It's set for October 3rd, 10 a.m. at the Logan Golf and Country Club. The $1,000 foursome fee includes golf, cart, and prime rib lunch after. All proceeds go towards creating a new Boys and Girls Club structure in Cache County. Contact the club in Brigham City or call Jenny Schultz at 435-723-6224. That's the Boys and Girls Club Scramble for the Structure Golf Tournament, October 3rd.
We are Aegis Home Health and Hospice. Aegis, A-E-G-I-S. Our home is your home. We are more than an organization of healthcare professionals. We are proud members of our community. Compassionate, quality patient care is our mission. I am Jason Jones. I'm a proud member of the Aegis team. At Aegis, we're dedicated to character, experience, and trust. Aegis Home Care and Hospice. We will ensure you experience the difference. 435-723-9000 or find us at myaegis.com.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Franson and Jason Walker.
Eric Franson, Jason Walker here on the Full Court Press. By the way, I got a text about an hour ago. I didn't see it. That's what happens when people try texting me personally rather than the text line, because I don't always look at my phone.
Yeah,
while we're doing the show.
Look at my phone.
This is from 2235. It says, was this Coach Anderson's success last year a result of the previous Coach Anderson's recruiting and coaching?
Well, keep in mind, Blake Anderson brought in the quarterback, the best defensive player, the number 2 wide receiver, some other players. So, like, some of the biggest impact players on the team last year were Blake's guys. Certainly the spine of the team, the backbone, a lot of it was Coach Gary Anderson. But you see what Gary Anderson did with that team?
Yeah. And frankly, some of those stars were originally recruited from Matt Wells, some of those guys who were around. So kind of a complicated mix of coaches and their impact and how they put the team together. So really last year's team success was a combination of 3 different coaches and who they brought in and the team they had put together at that point.
So Blake deserved credit for bringing together those guys and doing a very good coaching job in building a winning team out of a team that hadn't won in a few years.
And was very dysfunctional leading up to it.
Yeah. Which is weird that he's so dysfunctional now, because, like, he was the one who ended that from 2020, brought it all together for 2021. Now it's falling apart on his watch. That's why it's just this is so baffling. It's why people are booing. They're booing because they don't understand. They don't get why this has suddenly gone so wrong so quickly.
Right. It's a lot of frustration. 9315, tell Ajay to only use the Full Court Press text line, not Eric's personal number.
That was actually me that texted Eric.
It was not Ajay. 8920. Not to mention Coach Anderson kept Devin Tompkins here. That's true. That's probably one of his biggest recruiting wins was keeping Tompkins here, who had put his name in the portal.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, with this new rule for transfer windows, any player who decides they want to leave the school can't officially put their name in the transfer portal until like mid-December. There's already a kicker at Colorado State who wants to leave, but he can't officially put his name in the portal until after the end of the season.
Yeah,
They're clamping down on when these windows are for transfers, which I applaud. But the other thing that doesn't get talked about as much is that if you're going to get a transfer or you're going to get a player who's from the transfer portal, you have to commit to his financial aid through the entire time of his collegiate career. So it's probably going to make those coaches think long and hard. Do we want to really take this player as a transfer player because we're on the hook for a little bit more of a financial burden to bring him on?
Yeah, and I think another adjustment they need to make to recruiting in general is just have no recruiting through the end of the season, because I hate seeing these teams lose their coach right before their bowl game. You know, they have this really great season. You know, this happens to G5 teams, happens to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's coach left before a playoff game. Like, what the heck?
Right. Because you have to make that hire really fast because you got to get those recruits and the transfers who are in the window. They're not really sure where they're going to go.
Yeah, they're making their decisions in December while you're doing your bowl prep. And so it just needs to be do not contact anyone, no transfers, no recruits, no nothing. Can't talk to them, just a dead period throughout, November, December probably. And then once January hits, all right, everyone go. Do your worst.
Yeah, so I applaud the windows, and they're starting to be firm with it. So if you didn't put your name in the transfer portal before August 31st, you're stuck where you're at until mid-December.
Yeah, that's good. You got to try and get some kind of handle, or at least, not have it be too crazy. You want to give them the freedom, but you don't want it to be absolutely nuts and have it impact the season. Transfers need to be an off-season thing.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree.
And so that's what this is clearly meant to do, and it should hopefully do it.
So looking at the entire Mountain West now, a couple of weeks into this, some schools have played 3. Most have only played 2. But kind of a mixed bag here out of the Mountain West. Really only Air Force has represented the conference well and won both of its games. They are the only undefeated school in the Mountain West so far.
Yeah, a lot of other conferences have multiple undefeated teams. There are a couple, conferences only have one. I think the MAC only has like one undefeated team. I think Conference USA only has one. But most other conferences have multiple undefeated teams. Granted, it's 2-0 undefeated. I don't know if there's any 3-0 teams. There might be 1 or 2. Because they'd have to be undefeated teams that played in week 1 or week 0.
Week 0.
There could very well be. I just don't want to bother looking it up right now. But yeah, the Mountain West has not been very impressive in a lot of ways.
No real premier P5 victories. Yeah, I guess Air Force beating Colorado.
Don't need to call that a
but
premier
I don't know
P5.
if that's a premier P5
that's
victory.
That's like beating Vanderbilt, which Hawaii clearly didn't do.
No.
So Hawaii is like one of the worst teams in the country, according to several sources.
Yeah.
And they've played like it.
They've given up a lot of points through their first 3 games.
They're averaging 56 points allowed per game.
Oh.
Colorado State's not much better at 42.5 points per game.
Yeah, Colorado State's been a bit of a surprise. Honestly, I thought they'd be a little more competitive than they've been with their coaching change. I thought they had pretty decent players on that roster last year. They just had inept coaches. And they haven't been able to pull it together yet.
Yeah, I think everyone was of a similar opinion that they would maybe not be like a world beater in the Mountain West, but they would be up there. People picked them ahead of, or some people picked them ahead of Utah State. I think they ended up behind them because it was Boise State, Air Force, Utah State. Colorado State, like right behind Utah State, they were kind of in that same league where people thought they'd be around as good. And I picked Colorado State to beat Utah State in my preseason predictions. And now, even as bad as Utah State played against Weber State, I don't know if Colorado State can actually do that. So they've just absolutely gone out. They're another team that's like in the bottom 10 that people are putting them in, like the bottom 10, bottom 25 of college football teams. They're really bad.
They're really struggling to score points.
Yeah.
Boise State, kind of a mixed bag there. Their opener, there was controversy with the quarterback position. Came back against New Mexico, got a little bit more settled in, mostly defensively, but then their offense started to go. So they already have a conference victory under their belt. But Nevada lost to an FCS program like Utah State did this last weekend. At least Nevada was competitive in their matchup. It was a high-scoring game and gave themselves chances to win. Fresno State played to the wire against who did they play?
It was Oregon State, wasn't
Oregon State. But Oregon State ended up winning that one late in the fourth quarter. But San Diego State, kind of a mixed bag for them. A lot of excitement for their new home, their new arena. Really kind of laid an egg against Arizona. But nothing really stands out so far in the first few weeks here from the Mountain West Conference, and that's not a great sign.
Yeah, really it's just Air Force, and I think for Boise State and San Diego State, they have a chance to kind of rehabilitate and move forward and push and be the great teams we were kind of expecting them to be. Rough start, but great finish. That's what I'm looking, as far as their trajectory. I think they can very much pull that off. And like I said, Boise State and San Diego State kind of rough start, losing to P5 teams. But as they get along, I think they'll build momentum, and I think they'll be good teams, could end up winning their divisions. We'll see if Fresno State kind of does that, because obviously they lost to Oregon State. They could do the same thing where they, lose their, big non-conference game, but they managed to still dominate the conference.
Well, and a number of opportunities this weekend for Mountain West schools to perform well on a big stage. Nevada is going to Iowa. Now, Iowa has had more punts than points so far this year.
That is like, we think Utah State's offense is bad.
But Iowa is favored by 23 points. Well, they have not scored 23 points all year.
How are they supposed to score 23 points? They couldn't score on my grandmother. Like, if she was playing defense, they couldn't score against her.
So that'll be interesting. San Diego State's going to be in the state. They're taking on number 14 Utah. Fresno State's at number 7 USC. So not necessarily easy opportunities. Colorado State at Washington State. The Washington State Cougars are an improving team. Colorado State's definitely not there yet. So a number of opportunities, but I don't know that Mountain West schools really are in a position to play the upset.
Yeah, I'm not expecting upsets. They can always happen, but they're playing top 15 teams in some of these cases. Top 10 teams. Supposedly Utah and USC are supposed to be really, really good. And I've not seen anything out of the Mountain West that makes me think they're going to be beating these teams. Last year they had some of these marquee wins against the Pac-12. Like, the Mountain West was arguably better than the Pac-12 last year because they got a bunch of wins against them. Obviously at the top, Utah was better than anything the Mountain West had to offer. But this year, Pac-12's got it over the Mountain West. So
yeah,
it's not going to be a banner year for the Mountain West unless things turn around. It's possible.
I mean, Air Force could still be that team.
Yeah, they'll probably, at least based off early returns, they look like the team that could end up having the best record in the conference. Will they be the best team? It depends. Maybe Boise State will beat them. Again, we'll see. We'll have some good teams, but it looks like non-conference wise, the Mountain West is just not going to do very good this year.
Not helping themselves.
And it could be a rough bowl season. So, like I said, you'll have the same teams dominating the conference probably as usual, but rough non-conference wise.
All right, we're going to take a timeout here in the Full Court Press. Donovan Mitchell introduced in Cleveland. Not that we want to necessarily dwell on that, but he did have some interesting things to say as he was introduced. And what about a future jazzman? Simone Fontecchio.
Current jazzman, Simone Fontecchio. Thank you very much.
Yes. Performed for his team. Italy was facing off against France earlier today. The game went into overtime. How did he play? What kind of a role did he play in that game? Who won? And also the stat that blew our minds and our player of the week. It's coming up on the Full Court Press.
I'm Matt Neverett. On the Week 3 edition of This Week in the Mountain West, we highlight the weekly Player of the Week awards and recap Week 2 of non-conference play around the Mountain West Conference. Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun also stops by to break down Friday night's Week 3 conference matchup against the Cowboys of Wyoming, and Boise State play-by-play man Bob Beeler checks in on the Broncos before their final out-of-conference game on the season coming up. It's all this week here on the Mountain West Radio Network.
Friday afternoon during the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
The Young Automotive Group is proud to announce Young Truck and Trailer Center in Cache Valley. Whether it's heavy equipment trailers, horse trailers, race car trailers, or cargo and utility trailers, we're excited to offer some of the finest trailers and flatbed work trucks to Cache Valley. Our team of experts look forward to helping you find the right truck or trailer to fit your needs, with competitive prices offered on every make and model for sale on our lot. With our extensive inventory, you'll find the best deals right here in Cache Valley. Young Truck and Trailer Center, just off Highway 89 in Logan. Think young, drive young.
Have you thought about your furnace lately? Of course not. It's hot outside. Now's a great time to start thinking about replacing it or having it serviced for fall and winter. Advanced Heating and Air will help you get some of the industry's best rebates on a new high-efficient York furnace installed in your home. Or one of Advanced Heating and Air's service professionals can service your furnace for the upcoming winter season. Call today, 752-7272, or schedule a free estimate at advancedheating-ac.com. York, install confidence.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Utah Army National Guard. Aired by the Utah Broadcasters Association and this station.
Santo Taco Logan is open. Known in Salt Lake City as the best taqueria in the valley, they were featured on the Food Network. That means you'll taste some of the best food in Utah. Have you tried their pollo asado taco? It's grilled chicken on a corn or flour tortilla that will make your mouth water. Or try Santo Taco's chili verde burrito. Savory pork in chili verde. Whatever you try, you can't go wrong. Santo Taco, now open at 880 South Main, Logan. To order online, go to santotacos.com/Logan.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wees T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Fun, like it's a fun group, you know, like I said, we're fairly young as a team, and you know, I think for us just going out there and, you know, whether it's on the floor or off the floor, being able to have a good time, be able to talk to each other, be able to hold each other accountable on the floor, I think that's huge.
That was Donovan Mitchell in his introductory press conference today in Cleveland, the newest member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Couple other things that he said that kind of stood out is there were rumors about how he reacted when he learned of being traded to Cleveland. And he reacts to that and how he reacted when he got the news.
Yeah, when I first found out, I was golfing. So that report is true. I was golfing, and I was running around crazy. Mainly, in fact, when I figured out, you know, who we kept in the deal, because I didn't know who was in the trade. I just know I was traded, and when I found out we kept DG and JA and Ev and Karras and all these guys, man, I was like, wow, like we got a talented group. You know, a team that was third in the East, and then obviously injuries came about, and you know, that's before I got here, you know, and now we can only look to do more and better and just continue to win and build.
So, yeah, he was golfing, and he was super excited about getting traded to Cleveland.
Yeah, very poor golf etiquette, running around and screaming, supposedly. Hate those kind of people. The other people, like, they play their music super loud.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, those are the worst people.
Not just for me to listen to, it's for everyone to listen to.
Yeah. Right up there with people who don't put their golf carts away. Or their shopping carts away, excuse me.
Oh. But interesting reaction there from Mitchell, who he said he thought he was headed to New York initially.
I honestly had no idea. You know, my agent, AB, called me on was it Wednesday? It was a Wednesday. And, you know, said you're going to Cleveland. And like I said, my reaction was what it was. But all summer, you know, I didn't really say much. I kind of just let you guys do what you guys do, to be honest. And, you know, I thought for sure I was going back home, not going to lie about that. But, you know, when I found out where I was headed, who I was playing with, the group, the team, the coaching staff, I couldn't be more happier. To be here, to be a part of this organization, to be a part of this group, to join these phenomenal guys, man, and add to it, you know. And I think that for me is what I'm truly excited about.
He thought he was going home. He was excited about it.
You thought wrong.
And then he's going to Cleveland, and now he's running around a golf course because he's going to Cleveland.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was genuinely excited about that. Clearly he was, you know, because the reports came from two different places. He confirmed it, and somebody obviously heard that from somebody. So, you know, genuinely excited to be going to a place. He's a competitor. He's going to a team that has talent, and he can go places. He loved being in Utah when they were competitive. Probably the reason he was wanting out now is because he felt like the team was going downhill. He wanted a reset. You know, basically what Kevin Durant's been doing this whole time. Kevin Durant's not been too torn up about exactly where he's going. More, he wants to be super competitive. That's why he went to, you know, it's why he was staying in Oklahoma City. He wasn't, you know, super discontent until he figured out, I can go to Golden State and win. And then he wanted to go to the Nets to do whatever he's doing now. But Donovan Mitchell, you know, I guess he had to have been really excited with Cleveland because it's going to be a good team. There's obviously some part of him that definitely wanted to go back to New York. But I think he'll be fine with Cleveland for now. But if the Knicks are in a good position to get him in a couple of years, or however many years until Donovan's deal runs out, he may jump ship and go to New York. Still. But if Cleveland are in the middle of a dynasty at that point, Donovan will probably stay. Because free agents don't actually go to the Knicks. No matter, like, you know, we always say, the Knicks, they're going to get the next star. When was the last time they did that in free agency?
Carmelo Anthony?
Yeah, they traded for him.
A long time ago.
So, yeah, they traded for Carmelo. As far as free agency, they get, like, Derrick Rose and
past his prime Derrick Rose.
And Evan Fournier and whatnot. They may have actually got both those guys in the trade, but, like, the Knicks may still not get Donovan Mitchell from Cleveland if Cleveland is competitive. Donovan probably would have stayed in Utah if they'd stayed competitive and had a path forward for a championship. But as we've talked about, there wasn't really that path forward, and Danny Ainge talked about that and all those different things. So that's why we moved on from Mitchell, and that's why Mitchell's happy where he's going, because it's competitive.
Right. He doesn't have to be part of a rebuild. Which, frankly, if he were still here, it wouldn't be a rebuild. It would be a retooling.
Yep.
They would still be a playoff team, but definitely different direction now.
Yes.
5879 says, the Jazz done messed up. How many draft picks can we get for trading Danny Ainge? Well, I love Donovan Mitchell. He was a great ambassador for the team, and he was a talented player on the court. It will hurt not having him there.
Yes, and see, that's... I talked about this before. There's kind of two camps here. There are the ones who are wanting a championship. Like, that's the number one goal. Whatever it takes to get a championship, you do that. And that requires this kind of teardown. And so that's why a lot of people are excited, because they, there wasn't a path to a championship with the current team. And
they didn't have assets, really, to make moves.
That was the thing. They were that team that was a step or two away. And they tried to trade for, Mike Conley. They thought that was going to do it, and getting Boyan. And, credit, they were trying. I'm not going to fault the Jazz for trying. They failed, but it was, the kind of valiant failure. You tried. We accept that. And now you're trying again. So you can respect the front office for doing that. We'll get on them for a couple of failures. I'll never forgive them for Desmond Bane. But, or just Udoka Azubuike as opposed to a couple other guys. But,
yes.
But then there's this other camp where they're not in this championship at all costs. They're in this, we liked Donovan Mitchell. We liked Rudy Gobert. And the team was winning. They were in the playoffs every year. It's fun to root for a team that wins a lot more games than it loses. and makes it to the playoffs. And they're not going to go to these games when the Jazz are getting their butts kicked. They're not going to want to watch these young players. They're not going to fawn over, all the highlights of the college players. They're not going to watch all those international or NCAA games just drooling over prospects. That's not how they enjoy basketball. So they are, based on how they enjoy basketball, justifiably upset that the Jazz have done this to their favorite team. Just cannibalized the team and traded away the best players, the players they liked.
Right. But it was a necessary evil to put the team in a position to be competitive again. There are these windows, and this has been well documented in the NBA. There are these windows of opportunity. Jazz had theirs, didn't work, it was closing, and so rather than just kind of piecemeal work at it here and there, had to take a dramatic step to get things in a position to get back there. And it's going to take a few years, but hopefully not that long, because there are ways to accelerate that process, and that's what we're hearing from the Jazz front office, what they want to do. Now we got to see the proof in the pudding, though.
Yeah, well, they're going to say we're going to accelerate the process, but what are they going to say? Oh, we're going to suck for 5 years. They'll never say that.
We want to really get those draft picks.
We are pretty much guaranteed.
Ensure we get the highest draft pick.
We're pretty much guaranteed at least 3 bad seasons. 3 sub-30-win seasons, maybe even a sub-20-win season. Like this upcoming team, it's not going to be very good at all. I know we're all loving what's going on internationally, with Lauri Markkanen and Simone Fontecchio. That ain't going to translate to much here in the NBA.
Yeah, but they are going. Look, the Eurobasket is not the NBA, but there are a lot of NBA guys there and high-level NBA guys there. Today, Fontecchio, his team did lose. Italy lost to France in overtime. But Fontecchio, he's been consistently Italy's top player and got them through the quarterfinals. 21 points today, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. He was 4 for 7 from 3. Had an opportunity to hit a go-ahead 3-point shot in overtime, but missed. France started to expand their lead. Rudy Gobert had a great game. He's had a great tournament. But Fontecchio has been he's been a solid player in this whole tournament. Lauri Markkanen has been a great player in this tournament. Finland, who would have thought Finland would be in the quarterfinals of Eurobasket? When you consider some of the traditional powerhouses, like Lithuania, they're not there. But Italy and Finland, they were in the quarterfinals. And it speaks volumes to some of those Jazz players who are helping their teams get there.
Yeah, they've done well. And Fontecchio, given a bigger role potentially in the NBA or like a chance in the NBA, could end up doing something. But, Markkanen, what he's doing in Eurobasket is basically a better version of what we already know he is. We already know he's a good offensive player. The issues with Markkanen as to why he's not this star player, the guy who was drafted, I think, like 7th overall his year. I forget exactly what year he was drafted. Like 2017, I think. We knew he was good on offense. That's what he was drafted as far as what he was going to be good at. His issues lie elsewhere. So him coming out and balling out in Eurobasket, there's some excitement there. Maybe he can come in and have a good offensive, do good on offense for the Jazz. But again, he's still the same player he's been for 2 or 3 years now. He's mostly developed into who he is, a guy who's not super great defensively, not great rebounding, great stretch 4. So that's why, I want people to understand, don't overreact to what's going on in Eurobasket and all that. Because, they're playing well, and we can enjoy that and like it, but let's not pretend they're going to be stars. I'm seeing people react in that way. So there's some guy who said that, the front court of Fontecchio, Vanderbilt, and Markkanen was going to be a problem in the NBA. That's overreacting.
That's a little hyperbole there.
Thinking Markkanen can average 18 or 19 points for the Jazz this season, that's actually kind of realistic, depending on how much of an offensive role he gets. But don't pretend he's going to be a star.
All right, another quick timeout here in the Full Court Press. When we come back, stat that blew our minds, Player of the Week, Pick 6 results. It's all coming up next on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
This year's Grand Latino Festival is Saturday, September 17th on Center Street in Logan. All are invited to celebrate the Latin culture with delicious food, lively music, dancing in the streets, and cultural performances. Festivities get underway at 4 p.m. with a parade of flags and authentic Latin dress. Then work off the calories to everyone's favorite dance-based workout, Zumba. This year's Latino Festival is presented by Gosner Foods, where you can earn between $15 and $20 an hour, quarterly bonuses, and free health insurance. Members First Credit Union. Our name says it all. Thermo Fisher Scientific. Thermo Fisher is hiring. Join their team today. iFit, a global company committed to diversity and inclusion, welcomes everyone to the Latino Festival. Bring your family, your friends, and especially your appetite to the Grand Latino Festival, Saturday, September 17th, starting at 4 p.m. on Logan Center Street.
We would like to welcome Prodigy Brewing to the heart of Logan, Cache Valley's first and only brew pub with family-friendly dining. With an upscale twist on classic brewpub fare and ingredients sourced as local as possible, they are thrilled to be part of the heart of Cache Valley. Bring the family and try their wood-fired pizza or their mouth-watering signature burger. Located on beautiful Center Street, open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Pizza, burgers, and brews. Tasty.
Join Three Peaks Medical Plaza at 2245 North, 400 East in North Logan for their grand opening this Saturday from noon to 4. Bounce houses, drinks, food, and a chance to win amazing prizes. 13 different medical specialties in one state-of-the-art building. Cache Valley Imaging, offering a full suite of affordable imaging services. The Cache Valley Pharmacy, a full-service pharmacy with drive-through and free delivery in the valley. Go to threepeaksplaza.com for details and links to all medical specialties.
They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Franson and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press. Let's take a look at the numbers. It's the stat that blew our minds.
He did what?
On the Full Court Press.
Wow, that blew my mind.
Yes, something that stood out to us last week. Mind-blowing.
The player that blew our minds?
The player.
As you would say.
Yes. May have been guilty of saying that before. Was there a stat last week that stood out to you, Jason?
Yeah, I saw this from Andy Bailey on Twitter. Kind of mentioned this. Quarterbacks who sat the entire preseason and played against quarterbacks who did play at some point in the postseason. So those QBs who sat out went a combined 1-6 against quarterbacks who did play in the preseason.
Oh, really?
And kind of attached to this is the offenses who sat their quarterbacks averaged just under 3 points in the first quarter and 17 points overall in the game for week one. It's basically showcasing and kind of blowing my mind in a way how sitting your quarterbacks is negative for your offense.
Especially at the start of the NFL season.
Yeah, very start, and like in the first quarter. And I saw something else about how NFL teams, like scoring was way down this season in week one. Hope I didn't just steal yours. But I couldn't track that stat down because that kind of blew my mind, but I couldn't track down where I saw it. So I went with this one, which is kind of related.
Mine's also related to the NFL. This is about Monday night. Since 1960, teams attempting a field goal of 64 yards or more converted only 4.8%. Only twice has it been done, 2 of 42 attempts. But last year alone, teams who went for it on 4th and 5 converted 49% of the time.
It's just insane, like, the decision to not go for it on 4th and 5. Like, there was somebody saying, like, you spent all this money so you can kick a 64-yard field goal. Like, you brought in Russell Wilson, you traded away, you, like, kind of gutted some of the team as far as some of the depth guys. And it's just like, and you kick a field goal.
All right, quickly, your player of the week.
Saquon Barkley led all players in scrimmage yards this week at 194 overall. Ooh. Added a touchdown. Have him on one of my fantasy teams, so I was really happy with that.
Oh, I bet you would be. For me, it's Aaron Judge. At this point of the season, he just recently hit his 57th home run. At this point of the season, he has 20 more home runs than the next closest player. That's Kyle Schwarber at 37. The only time that's ever it's been like that kind of a gap, 1928. When Babe Ruth was at a pretty big distance on guys trailing him.
There you go.
Pretty significant. Results of Pick 6. We don't have time to go line by line. but sufficient to say I got 4 correct, you got 3 correct. Is the pendulum starting to swing the other way?
Better not.
I don't know. That may be a little too early to tell. It was close, though. It was close.
We'll get back to your next pick. I'll be on my game.
Yeah.
I just had to build your self-esteem up a little bit these last couple times, just so I could
false sense of confidence.
Just so I can just crush your hopes and dreams with like a 3-month streak.
9315 with the text that came in. Can the player of the week be the whole Weber football team?
No, because I focus mine on Utah State or Saquon Barkley.
But they deserve credit. Absolutely credit. And that coach and that coaching staff deserve a ton of credit.
Yeah.
Good game plan. They executed. They were fired up. And they outplayed, outcoached, out-executed Utah State.
Everything came together. Everyone had to do their job, and everyone did. And they did it better than Utah State. So clearly they deserve that
and not by just more than 1 point.
Yeah, they didn't eke out an upset. They crushed Utah State.
Yes, absolutely. All right, that'll do it for us tonight. Appreciate all the texts coming through today. We'll have more on the show tomorrow. 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.